I'm Bobby Matthews. Welcome to the channel. We're back with another episode of Before You Bet. Before You Bet is a YouTube series that is dedicated to provide our audience with knowledge and information. We work hard here at ZREP to provide that knowledge and information to you in a brief video package, so that way you get all the information that you're going to need before placing your wagers on UFC Fights. This for UFC 261, Usman versus Masvidal 2, taking place at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida on April 24th. This is the first UFC event with a live audience in over a year. It's sold out in minutes. I am beyond excited to see a live event with the people, baby. Having the fans back in attendance for UFC events is excellent. Unless you are lucky enough to have a ticket to the event, then you'll have to order UFC 261 off of ESPN+. The early prelims began at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and there's a simulcast on ESPN2 and ESPN+. Whether you straight up gamble on people throwing hands, maybe you play in a picks pool, or you just want to look like a genius in front of your friends, then Before You Bet is the show for you. Today's sponsor is freedom. It's what I believe in. What do you believe in? And as always, Before You Bet is presented to you by ZREP. That's Zia Rising Entertainment Productions. All of our stats, odds, and research information has been brought to you by mybookie.ag, tapology.com, espn.com, and ufc.com. The main event for UFC 261 is a title fight rematch for the welterweight championship. The Nigerian Nightmare, Kamaru Usman, is defending his UFC welterweight championship against UFC's number 4 ranked welterweight contender, Gamebred Street Jesus Jorge Masvidal. Usman won the first fight by unanimous decision last July. Masvidal took the fight on short notice and got beaten. We shall see if Masvidal can make the fight more competitive this time around, after having a legitimate training camp, 8 full weeks of training and preparation. The question is, does Masvidal now have what it takes to dethrone the champ? Purchase UFC 261 and find out. Before you bet on this main event fight, let's get into some stats and information. Usman has an 18-1 professional record with 8 TKOs, 1 submission, and 9 decision victories. Usman is 13-0 in the UFC and is currently on a 17-fight win streak, and recently teamed with Trevor Whitman and looked really sharp during his KO win against Gilbert Burns earlier this year. Kamaru Usman is a switch stance fighter, 3 years younger, and will have a slight height and reach advantage. Usman has not lost a fight since 2013. The challenger, Jorge Masvidal, is undefeated in the streets and has a 35-14 professional record, with 16 TKOs, 2 submissions, and 17 decision victories. Masvidal is 12-7 in the UFC and has gone 3-3 in his last 6 fights. Masvidal was on a 3-fight winning streak, beating Nate Diaz, Ben Askren, and Darren Till before suffering a unanimous decision loss to Kamaru Usman back in July of 2020. He was also recently defeated by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Damian Maia. It's now time to get into everyone's favorite segment of Before You Bet. It's where we break down the odds. Our odds segment is brought to you by Good Tunes. I love music. What have you been listening to lately? Anything good? Let me know down in the comments. Any serious inquiries about sponsorship, please reach out to me at robv.zre@gmail.com. The odds makers over at mybookie.ag have Kamaru Usman as a moderate favorite at minus 435. Usman is no stranger to being a moderate favorite. He has either been a huge favorite or a moderate favorite in 12 of his 13 UFC fights. Only being an underdog one time, and that was against Tyron Woodley, who he annihilated. Jorge Masvidal is the underdog in this contest. The odds makers have him labeled as a plus 335 underdog. So what does that mean exactly? Kamaru Usman is a minus 435 favorite. Jorge Masvidal is a plus 335 underdog. Meaning, if you wanted to make a wager on Kamaru Usman, you would have to wager $435 in order to profit $100. On the other hand, if you wanted to wager on Jorge Masvidal to win, him being the plus 335 underdog, if you were to gamble $100 on Jorge Masvidal and he won, you would walk out with $335, including your $100 back. If you weren't interested on picking a winner of the fight, you can always bet on the over or the under. This is a championship fight, and the over-under is set at 4.5 rounds, with the over priced at minus 185 and the under at plus 155. In Kamaru Usman's last 13 fights in the UFC, 9 have gone to decision. As for Masvidal, 12 of his 19 fights have gone to decision in the UFC. Because Kamaru Usman has defeated Jorge Masvidal once before, has stayed busy defeating Gilbert Burns by KO, and has been proven to be a much more consistent winner, especially as a moderate favorite, Kamaru Usman is Before You Bet's official pick for UFC 261. If you're nasty, you can parlay Kamaru Usman at minus 435 and the over 4.5 rounds. That improves the price from minus 435 to minus 120. In the co-main event for UFC 261, we've got another title fight. This one in the UFC Women's Strawweight Division. The champion, Magnum Weili Zhang, defends her title against the #1 contender in the strawweight division, Thug Rose Namajunas. Weili Zhang is a switch stance fighter owning a 21-1 professional record with 10 TKOs, 7 submissions, and 4 decision victories, after losing her debut fight in mixed martial arts way back in 2013. Weili has gone on a 21 fight winning streak, going 5-0 in the UFC, stacking up wins against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Jessica Andrade, and Tisha Torres, parlaying all those victories into UFC gold. Rose Namajunas has a 10-4 professional record with 1 TKO, 6 submissions, not to be confused with sick submissions. The woman has 6 submissions, 3 decision victories. The former champ, Thug Rose, is 7-3 in the UFC and is coming off a split decision victory in her rematch against Jessica Andrade. Thug Rose has also earned a victory over Michelle Waterson, Joanna Jędrzejczyk 2 times. Namajunas has been favored in 6 out of her 10 fights in the UFC. Speaking of the odds, this odds segment for the co-main event, Weili Zhang versus Rose Namajunas, is presented by Recycling. Any serious inquiries about sponsorship, please reach out to me at robv.zre@gmail.com. Once again, that's robv.zre@gmail.com. The odds makers over at MyBookie have the defending champion, Magnum Weili Zhang, as a minus 200 favorite. In 5 fights in the UFC, she has been favored in 4. Zhang won all 5, with 3 of them going to decision. Namajunas has been favored in 6 out of her 10 fights in the UFC, but finds herself as an underdog in this fight. Thug Rose Namajunas is actually a plus 160 underdog. The odds makers over at my bookie have the over/under set at 4.5 rounds, with the over priced at minus 135 and the under at plus 105. This is a really close 50-50 fight. I couldn't blame you for going either way on this one. I won't fill your head with some nonsense for the sake of making a pick. That'd be me playing with your money and your emotions. We here at Z-Rep strive to provide information so that way you can make the best choice for yourself. To be honest, most of the time with women's MMA, I will often allow my fandom and overwhelming attraction to these ladies absolutely blind and cloud my judgment. It's because of that reason that I recommend passing on this fight entirely from a gambling point of view. Just sit back, get heavily inebriated, and enjoy the show. But of course, this is a picks show, and if I had a gun to my head and I was forced to make a pick, I'm definitely rolling with Weili Zhang. That's right, we are on the Zhang Gang train. But taking a step back and looking at the fight objectively, there is value on Thug Rose Namajunas. This is a 50-50 fight in my opinion, and she is a plus 160 underdog. So, to all the degenerates out there, get in on that value. The third title fight for UFC 261 takes place in the women's flyweight division when Bullet Valentina Shevchenko defends her title against the #1 contender, Jessica Andrade. Valentina Shevchenko has a 20-3 professional record with 6 TKOs, 7 submissions, and 7 decision victories, and is currently on a 6-fight win streak. Shevchenko is 9-2 in the UFC, only losing to the GOAT, Amanda Nunes. Ever heard of her? Some would say that Shevchenko actually won the second fight against Nunes if it were not for the judge's mental disabilities. Shevchenko will have a slight height advantage and a 4.5 reach advantage. Shevchenko has barely broken a sweat inside the octagon since defeating Joanna Jędrzejczyk back in 2018. With that being said, I am completely delusional and a massive mark for Bullet Valentina Shevchenko. She could do no wrong. Win or lose, I mean, how could you not be a fan of hers? She is multi-talented, intelligent, beautiful, and possesses the fighting abilities of a demigod. Did I mention that she speaks 3 languages, dances, and target shoots? Her opponent, Jessica Andrade, is 12-6 in the UFC. Andrade is coming off a win against Caitlin Chukagian and has won 3 out of her last 5 fights. The odds for this fight are powered and presented to you by Electricity. Valentina Shevchenko is currently sitting as a minus 410 favorite. 3 of her last 5 fights have gone to decision. Shevchenko is no stranger to being a huge favorite. She typically handles her opponents like I handle ice cream sandwiches. Jessica Andrade is a plus 310 underdog. 4 of her last 5 fights have gone under 2.5 rounds. The odds makers have the over-under on this fight set at 4.5 rounds for the 5-round championship fight. And it is actually priced at even money across the board. So if you want to bet the over, it is at minus 110. The under is also priced at 110. We absolutely love the Bullet Valentina Shevchenko here at Before You Bet. And that's why she is our official pick to win the fight, defend her title, and we predict that she is going to score a TKO in the 3rd, maybe the 4th round. If you're nasty, you can parlay Shevchenko and the under, which pays plus 137. If you're really, really nasty, you can add Usman and get almost 2-1 odds at plus 192. If you're really, really, really nasty, you can add the over 4.5 in the Usman Masvidal. That would be a really, really, really risky parlay to bet on if you had Kamaru Usman to win, the over in the Usman-Masvidal fight, Shevchenko to win, and the under in the Shevchenko-Andrade fight. But it would pay plus 350. Before You Bet is not like those other picks and previews shows. We will not fill your head with some very, very, very vague details convincing you why a fighter would either win or lose. Nor will we play the if game with you and tell you if a fighter does this or if a fighter does that, then the fighter can surely come up with a win. I mean, come on. If my aunt had a penis, then she'd be my uncle. I immediately regret saying that, so let's just move on. The goal here at Before You Bet is to successfully produce a serious sports betting show that is fun, entertaining, and ultimately excites you to talk about the fights, gamble on the fights, and watch the fights. We work hard here at Z-Rep to grind out all this information for you. We do this because you fucking deserve it. So if you enjoyed this episode of Before You Bet, make sure to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to Z-Rep for more UFC content.